A sharp crash cut through the low chatter in the restaurant. Mrs. Stella Williams froze, staring at the ruined designer dress, sauce dripping onto the pristine marble floor. Her hands trembled as she clutched the empty serving tray.
I'm so sorry, ma'am. Please, it was an accident.
Accident? Do you know how much this dress costs? More than your pathetic wages for an entire year.
Around them, the restaurant went silent. Waiters froze. Diners stopped mid-conversation. Everyone watched as Seoyura grabbed Mrs. Stella by the shoulder and shoved her down.
On your knees, now!
Mrs. Stella's knees hit the floor with a sickening crack. She gasped, pain shooting through her joints, but she didn't dare move. At 56, her body couldn't take this kind of abuse. Tears stung her eyes, but she kept her head down, humiliation burning through her chest. Yura circled her slowly like a predator examining wounded prey. She examined her nails with theatrical boredom, letting the silence stretch, letting everyone watch. You know what I think? Yura's voice carried across the restaurant. I think you did this on purpose. You people always do. You see someone with money, with status, and you get jealous. So you sabotage. No, ma'am, please. Mrs. Stella's voice cracked. Shut up. I didn't give you permission to speak. Yura turned to the watching crowd, her smile sharp. You see this? This is what happens when you hire people who don't know their place. They get comfortable. They forget who signs their pathetic paychecks. A few people shifted uncomfortably, but no one spoke. No one moved to help. Yura reached for the bowl of remaining sauce on a nearby table, thick, dark, expensive sauce that had cost more than Mrs. Stella made in a week. She lifted it slowly, deliberately, letting Mrs. Stella see what was coming. Maybe this will teach you respect. She tilted the bowl. Don't you dare. The voice was sharp, furious, and entirely unfamiliar to the crowd. Every head turned. A young woman pushed through the gathered onlookers, her eyes blazing with a fury that made several people step back. She wasn't dressed like the other patrons. No designer labels, no expensive jewelry. Just simple clothes and a worn bag slung over her shoulder. But she moved like she owned every inch of ground beneath her feet. Nora Williams. She reached her mother just as Yura began to pour. Nora's hand shot out and caught Yura's wrist, hard enough to make the bowl shake, hard enough to make sauce slosh over the rim. I said, Nora repeated, her voice deadly calm despite the rage burning in her chest. Don't you dare. Yura's eyes widened in shock, her mouth falling open. For 3 full seconds, she just stared at this nobody who had the audacity to touch her, then her face twisted with rage. Who the hell do you think you are? Yura's voice rose to a shriek. Let go of me right now. No. Nora's grip didn't loosen even slightly. Not until you put that bowl down and step away from my mother. Your mother? Yura's laugh was ugly, sharp. She yanked her arm, but Nora's grip held firm. Your mother is the clumsy idiot who ruined a $15,000 dress. She apologized. It was an accident. Nora moved between Yura and her mother, helping Mrs. Stella to her feet with her free hand. Her other hand still gripped Yura's wrist like a vice. You have no right to humiliate her like this. No right to make her kneel. No right to treat her like she's less than human. Gasps rippled through the watching crowd. Someone whispered, Is she insane? Yura's face flushed deep red. No right? No right? Do you have any idea who I am? I know exactly what you are, Nora said, her voice dropping lower, more dangerous. She finally released Yura's wrist and stepped fully in front of her mother, shielding her. You're someone who thinks money gives you permission to destroy people, someone who mistakes cruelty for power. The restaurant had gone completely silent now. Even the kitchen sounds had stopped. Everyone was watching, phones already out, recording. Mrs. Stella grabbed her daughter's arm, her voice a frightened whisper. Nora, please, don't. Just let it go. No, Mom. Nora didn't look away from Yura. Not this time. Yura took a step closer, her voice shaking with rage. You little bitch, look at you. Look at your cheap clothes. Look at where you come from. She gestured dismissively at both of them, her hands sweeping up and down like she was cataloging their poverty. You're nothing. Less than nothing. Your mother scrubs toilets and floors for a living, and you? What do you do? Probably the same, right? Living in some cockroach-infested apartment, scraping by on whatever pittance she earns. Nora's jaw tightened, but she didn't flinch. Better to scrape by with dignity than drown in luxury without a soul. dignity? Yura laughed, the sound echoing off the marble walls. Is that what you call poverty? Is that what you tell yourself when you can't afford to eat? When you're wearing the same clothes you wore 5 years ago? When you go to bed in some dump while people like me sleep in penthouses? At least I can sleep, Nora shot back. Can you? Knowing you're the kind of person who gets off on humiliating a woman old enough to be your mother? Yura's hand flew up again, aiming for Nora's face this time. Nora caught her wrist mid-swing. The crowd gasped. Try it again, Nora said quietly, her eyes locked on Yura's. Please, give me a reason. Nora, stop, Mrs. Stella's voice was panicked now. Please, sweetheart, she's connected. She can destroy us, please. But Nora didn't back down. Let her try. Yura jerked her hand back, breathing hard. You're going to regret this. Do you know what I can do to you? To your pathetic mother? One phone call and she loses her job. One phone call and no one in the city will hire either of you. You'll be on the street, begging, starving. Then make the call, Nora challenged. Right now. Let everyone here see exactly who you are. You think I won't? Yura pulled out her phone, her hands shaking with rage. You think I'm bluffing? I'll call right now. I'll make sure your mother is fired before the night is over. I'll make sure both of you. You'll do nothing. The voice cut through the chaos like a blade through silk. Everyone froze. The temperature in the room dropped. A man stood 15 feet away, his presence commanding immediate attention. He was tall, impeccably dressed in a dark suit that screamed wealth and power, but it wasn't the clothes that made people's spines straighten. It was the aura, the way he held himself, perfectly still, perfectly controlled, like a predator deciding whether to strike. At 35, Kang Min-jun had built an empire through calculated precision and ruthless efficiency. He was known in certain circles as a man who didn't raise his voice because he never needed to. Men twice his age deferred to him. Business partners approached negotiations with him like they were walking through a minefield. And right now, his eyes were on Yura, cold, assessing, unimpressed. Mrs. Stella went rigid, her face draining of color. Mr. Kang, she whispered, terror evident in her voice. Nora glanced at the man, took in the expensive suit and commanding presence, and dismissed him immediately. Another rich asshole. Probably one of Yura's crowd. She turned back to Yura. Is this supposed to intimidate me? Bringing backup? Min-jun's eyes shifted to Nora for the first time. Something flickered across his face, too quick to read. Backup? Yura's voice changed, became sweeter, more calculated. Min-jun, darling, thank God you're here. This woman and her daughter attacked me. Look what they did to my dress. Look how they... I've been standing here for 5 minutes, Min-jun said, his voice quiet but carrying absolute authority. I saw everything. The room went completely still. Yura's smile faltered. Then you know they... I know you struck Mrs. Williams. I know you forced her to her knees. I know you were about to pour sauce on her. His eyes moved to the bowl, then back to Yura. Put it down. It wasn't a request. Yura set the bowl down immediately, her hands trembling slightly. Min-jun, you don't understand. She ruined my... I understand perfectly. He walked forward slowly, each step measured. People moved out of his way without thinking. Mrs. Williams, are you hurt? Mrs. Stella couldn't speak. She just shook her head, her eyes wide with fear. Nora felt her mother's terror and stepped slightly in front of her again. She's fine. We're leaving. Min-jun's eyes moved back to Nora. She met his gaze directly, no fear, no deference. Just cold assessment. You work for me, he said to Mrs. Stella, still looking at Nora. Take the rest of the week off. That's not necessary. Nora said flatly, we don't need your charity. It's not charity, it's company's policy. His tone didn't change. Still calm, still absolutely in control. When an employee is assaulted on company-related business, they receive time to recover. This isn't company business. This is your fiancé being a bully. The word fiancé seemed to surprise him. His eyes narrowed slightly. Nora, Mrs. Stella whispered urgently. Please, he's my boss. I don't care who he is, Mom. Nora's voice was firm. You don't owe anyone an apology. You didn't do anything wrong. Min-jun studied Nora with an intensity that made several people uncomfortable. But Nora didn't look away, didn't back down. "You're right," he said finally. She didn't. He turned to Yura. "We're leaving." "What?" "No. Minjun, I'm not going anywhere until this woman apologizes to me. She grabbed me. She threatened me. Now." One word, spoken quietly, but something in his tone made Yura's protest die in her throat. She glanced around the watching crowd, saw the phone still recording, and forced a tight smile. "Fine, but we're discussing this later." She grabbed her purse and stalked toward the exit, her heels clicking sharply against the marble. Minjun looked at Mrs. Stella one more time. "Take the week. When you return, come see me directly." Then his eyes moved to Nora. For a long moment, they just stared at each other. She saw power, control, the kind of man who was used to being obeyed without question. He saw fire, defiance, someone who had just defended her mother against impossible odds without caring about the consequences. "You should be more careful," he said quietly. "Making enemies of powerful people can be dangerous." Nora's laugh was bitter. "Is that a threat?" "No, advice. I don't need advice from someone who stood there for 5 minutes watching before deciding to step in." The words landed like a slap. Something crossed Minjun's face, too quick to identify, but his expression remained neutral. "You're right," he said simply. Then he turned and walked toward the exit, following Yura. Nora watched him go, her heart pounding with residual adrenaline. "Nora," her mother breathed, "do you know who that was? Some rich asshole, like all the rest. That was Kang Minjun. He owns the company. He owns half the businesses in this district. People don't speak to him the way you just did." "Well, I just did." Nora took her mother's arm gently. "Come on. Let's go home." They walked toward the exit, Nora's head high despite the stairs. She didn't look back. Didn't see the way Minjun had paused at the door. Didn't see the way he watched her leave, his expression unreadable. Didn't see the moment Yura noticed his attention and felt something cold settle in her chest. "Hold on. If you're new here, welcome to the channel. This channel tells Afro-Korean love stories with real stakes, power imbalance, and hard choices. If you'd like to listen to more stories like this, hit the like button, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell. And while you're here, tell me in the comments, where are you watching from and what did you think about that scene? Was Nora too direct, or did Seo Yura deserve it? What would you have done? All right, let's continue. Outside, Minjun stood beside his car while Yura ranted. "Did you see how that girl spoke to me? To you? She has no idea who we are. No respect, no sense of—" "Get in the car." Yura stopped mid-sentence. "Excuse me?" "Get in the car." Minjun's voice was perfectly calm, perfectly controlled, and absolutely final. Yura's mouth opened, then closed. She got in. Minjun slid into the back seat beside her, and the driver pulled away from the curb. For 3 blocks, neither of them spoke. Then Minjun turned to her. "What you did tonight was unacceptable." Yura's eyes widened. "I'm the victim here. That woman ruined my dress and her daughter assaulted me. You struck an employee. You humiliated her publicly. You were about to pour sauce on her while she was on her knees. She deserved it. No one deserves that." His voice remained level, but there was steel underneath. "You represented my company tonight, my reputation, and you behaved like a petty tyrant." Yura's face flushed. "I can't believe you're taking their side. Some nobody waitress and her trashy daughter over your own fiancé. This has nothing to do with sides. This has to do with basic human decency." "Human decency?" Yura laughed sharply. "Minjun, wake up. Those people aren't like us. They're workers. They're meant to serve. And when they step out of line, they need to be reminded of their place." Minjun looked at her like he was seeing her for the first time, and he didn't like what he saw. "We need to talk," he said quietly, "about this engagement." Yura went very still. "What about it?" "I'm questioning whether it's the right choice." "You're questioning—" Yura's voice climbed. "Because of tonight? Because I defended myself against some poor girl who—" "You didn't defend yourself. You attacked someone who couldn't fight back. There's a difference. This is insane. You're actually considering ending our engagement because I put some waitress in her place? Min-jun didn't answer immediately. He looked out the window, watching the city lights blur past. Take me home, he said to the driver. Min-jun, Yura started softly. We'll discuss this later, when you've calmed down. I am calm. He looked at her. Just looked at her. Yura fell silent, something in his gaze making her chest tighten with unease. The rest of the ride was silent. When they pulled up to Yura's building, she got out without a word, slamming the door behind her. Min-jun sat in the back seat, staring at nothing. His phone buzzed, his assistant. Sir, there are videos from the restaurant circulating online. Should we leave them? Sir? Don't touch them. Let them spread. A pause. May I ask why? Because people should see what happened. All of it. He hung up. Then he pulled up the company employee directory and searched for Stella Williams. Address, emergency contact, years of service, 15 years, perfect attendance, multiple commendations from other staff, and her daughter's name, Nora Williams. Min-jun stared at the name for a long moment, then he made a call. I need information, discreetly. Nora Williams, daughter of Stella Williams. What she does, where she lives, everything. Sir, is this... Just do it. He hung up and leaned back, his mind replaying the scene, the way Nora had stepped between danger and her mother without hesitation, the way she'd looked at him with such clear disdain, the way she'd called him out for his cowardice. Because she was right, he had waited, had calculated, had measured the social cost before stepping in. And in those minutes, Mrs. Williams had suffered. Min-jun was many things, ruthless, strategic, cold when necessary, but he wasn't cruel, and he didn't tolerate it in others. The engagement to Yura had been arranged years ago, a merger of families, of businesses. He'd accepted it because it made sense strategically, but tonight had shown him something he'd been avoiding. Yura was cruel, not just to Mrs. Williams. He'd seen it before in small ways, the way she spoke to service staff, the casual dismissals, the subtle put-downs. He'd ignored it because it was convenient. He wouldn't anymore. 2 days later, Nora sat in her small apartment, trying to focus on her translation work. Her phone kept buzzing, messages from friends who'd seen the videos, reporters asking for comments, strangers sending both support and hate. She'd turned off most notifications, but the damage was done. She was viral, and not in a good way. Half the comments called her brave. The other half called her an attention seeker who'd assaulted a wealthy woman for clout. Her mother had stayed home from work, too shaken to go back. I should call and quit, Mrs. Stella said quietly. They'll fire me anyway after this. No, Mom. You did nothing wrong. If they fire you, we'll sue. Sweetheart, we can't afford... Then I'll find a way. I'm not letting them win. There was a knock at the door. Nora opened it to find a courier with an envelope. Delivery for Nora Williams? She signed for it, confused, and opened the envelope. Inside was a check, a very large check, and a note. Payment for emotional damages sustained during the incident at the restaurant. This is not charity. This is accountability. Kang Min-jun. Nora stared at the check, at the amount that could cover 6 months of rent. Then she tore it in half. She grabbed her coat. Mom, I'll be back. Where are you going? To return this. 40 minutes later, Nora stood in the lobby of Kang Enterprises, the torn check in her hand. The receptionist looked at her like she was lost. I need to see Kang Min-jun. Do you have an appointment? No, but tell him Nora Williams is here. He'll know who I am. The receptionist looked skeptical but made the call. 2 minutes later, Nora was being escorted to the executive floor. Min-jun's office was exactly what she expected. Floor-to-ceiling windows, minimalist furniture, everything designed to intimidate. He stood when she walked in, his expression neutral. Miss Williams? She threw the torn check on his desk. I don't want your money. Min-jun looked at the check, then back at her. It's not charity. I don't care what you call it. I don't want it. Your mother was assaulted at an event involving my company. The payment is appropriate. Nothing about that night was appropriate. Nora's voice shook with anger. You stood there. You watched. You calculated whether stepping in was worth the social cost. And then you want to throw money at it like that fixes everything? Min Jun's jaw tightened. You're right. Stop saying that. Saying what? That I'm right. Stop agreeing with me like it absolves you of anything. Nora stepped closer to his desk. You want to make this right? Actually change things. Not just write a check and move on. Min Jun studied her for a long moment. What would you have me do? Fire her. Excuse me? Your fiancée. She assaulted my mother. She threatened us. If you actually care about accountability, there should be consequences for her, too. She doesn't work for me. But you're going to marry her. You're going to tie your name and reputation to someone who treats people like garbage. Nora's eyes blazed. So either you don't actually care about what happened, or you're too much of a coward to do anything about it. The words hung in the air. Min Jun walked around his desk slowly, stopping a few feet from her. When he spoke, his voice was quiet, controlled. I ended the engagement 2 days ago. Nora blinked. What? I called it off, publicly. The announcement went out yesterday morning. Because of what happened at the restaurant? Because I realized I was engaged to someone whose values I don't share. The restaurant just made it impossible to ignore anymore. Nora stared at him, trying to process this. You ended an engagement because of one incident? I ended an engagement that should have never happened in the first place? Min Jun's eyes never left hers. You were right about something else, too. I did calculate before stepping in. I do that with everything. Every decision is weighed, measured, analyzed. It's how I've built what I have. That's a terrible way to live. I'm starting to realize that. Nora shook her head. I didn't come here for this. I came to return your money and tell you to stop trying to ease your conscience with checks and grand gestures. Then what do you want? I want you to leave us alone. But even as she said it, she knew it wasn't entirely true. Min Jun stepped slightly closer. What if I don't want to? Then you're more delusional than I thought. Maybe. A slight smile touched his lips. But I can't stop thinking about what you said, about how I should have acted, about what real courage looks like. So I'm what? Your moral compass now? Your inspiration to be a better person? Nora's voice dripped with sarcasm. Maybe you are. The honesty in his voice stopped her. They stood there, 3 feet apart, the city sprawling behind him through the windows. I don't trust you, Nora said finally. I know, and I don't like you. I'm aware. So why are you looking at me like that? Like what? Like you're trying to figure me out. Min Jun's smile widened slightly. Because I am, and because you're the first person in 10 years who's looked at me and seen past everything else. You just saw someone who failed to do the right thing, and you weren't afraid to say it. Lots of people probably think that about you. But you said it. To my face. Twice now. He paused. That's rare in my world. Your world sounds exhausting. It is. Nora grabbed the torn check from his desk. I'm still not taking this. Keep it. Throw it away. It doesn't matter. Min Jun pulled out a business card and wrote something on the back. But take this. He handed it to her. His personal number. Why would I want this? Nora asked. In case you change your mind about leaving me alone. I won't. Maybe not. His eyes held hers. But I'll hope anyway. Nora pocketed the card, telling herself she'd throw it away later. She wouldn't. My mother better not face any consequences at work because of this. She won't. I've already made that clear to everyone. Nora nodded once, then turned to leave. Nora? She stopped at the door but didn't turn around. Thank you. For what? For being honest, even when it wasn't convenient. Nora left without responding, but as she rode the elevator down, her hand kept going to her pocket, to the card she told herself she didn't want, to the number she told herself she'd never call. That night, Yura sat in her penthouse, scrolling through news articles about the broken engagement. Her phone had been ringing nonstop. Family, friends, business partners, all asking what happened, all judging. She'd given them the story she'd prepared. Min Jun had broken under pressure, had made a rash decision he'd regret. They'd reconcile soon. But she knew the truth. He'd left her for a nobody, for the idea of someone better. And that someone was Nora Williams. Yura pulled up her laptop and began searching. social media, public records, everything she could find about Nora. Freelance translator, modest income, no connections, no power, no leverage. Perfect. If Nora wanted to play in the big leagues, Yura would show her exactly what that meant. She made a series of calls to investigators, to contacts in various industries, to people who owed her favors. I need everything on Nora Williams, every client she's worked for, every debt, every secret, everything. By morning, she'd have ammunition, and she'd make sure that when Min-jun looked at Nora again, all he'd see was exactly what Yura wanted him to see, a mistake. 3 days passed. Nora tried to work, but her concentration was shot. She kept thinking about Min-jun's office, the way he'd looked at her, the way he'd admitted his failures without making excuses. It would be easier if he was just another entitled rich man, but he wasn't. Not entirely. Her phone buzzed, an unknown number. She almost didn't answer. Hello? Miss Williams, this is James Park. I'm calling from Meridian Translation Services. One of her clients, a good one. Hi, Mr. Park. What can I do for you? I'm calling to inform you that we're terminating our contract with you, effective immediately. Nora's stomach dropped. What? Why? We've received some concerning information about your professionalism. We can't have our company associated with someone who's involved in public scandals. Public scandals? Mr. Park, I defended my mother from being assaulted. That's not a scandal. Be that as it may, we've made our decision. We'll send the termination papers by end of business today. He hung up. Nora stared at her phone in shock. 2 hours later, another client called. Then another. By evening, she'd lost 4 contracts. Her mother found her sitting at the kitchen table staring at nothing. Sweetheart? They're blacklisting me, Nora said quietly. Someone's contacting my clients, spreading lies, and they're all dropping me. Mrs. Stella's face went pale. Yura? Has to be. Nora, what are we going to do? Nora pulled out her phone and stared at the card she'd kept, at Min-jun's number. She didn't want to call, didn't want to give him the satisfaction of needing help, but this wasn't about pride anymore. This was survival. She dialed. He answered on the first ring. Nora, I need your help. 30 minutes later, Min-jun sat across from Nora in a quiet coffee shop. She'd explained everything. The lost contracts, the coordinated timing, the obvious sabotage. Min-jun's expression had grown colder with each detail. Yura, he said simply, can you stop her? I can try, but she's not going to give up easily. She sees you as competition. Competition for what? I don't want anything from you. You don't have to want it. She thinks you do, and that's enough. Nora ran her hands through her hair, frustration evident. I can't fight her. I don't have the resources, the connections, But I do. Min-jun interrupted. She looked up at him. Let me help, Min-jun said. Oh, not as charity. As partnership. What kind of partnership? I know people. I have influence. I can make calls, apply pressure, undo the damage she's doing. And what do you get out of it? Min-jun was quiet for a moment. Honestly, always. The chance to prove I'm not the man who stood there calculating for 5 minutes. The chance to actually do something right. Nora studied his face, looking for the lie, the angle. She didn't find one. If I let you help, this doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean I owe you. It doesn't mean... I know, he interrupted gently. No strings, no expectations, just help. Nora wanted to refuse, wanted to handle this herself, but pride didn't pay rent. Okay, she said finally, but I want to be involved in everything. No decisions without me knowing? Agreed. Min-jun pulled out his phone and made a call. I need you to compile a list of everyone who's terminated a contract with Nora Williams in the last week, and I need to know if they've had any recent contact with CO Yura or her associates. He hung up and looked at Nora. We'll have answers by tomorrow morning. Just like that? Just like that. Nora shook her head slowly. Your world is terrifying. Only if you're on the wrong side of it. They sat in silence for a moment, the coffee shop's ambient noise filling the space. Nora looked at Min-jun for a while, then said, Why do you still care after what I said to you that day? Minjun set down his coffee. Because for the first time in a very long time, someone looked at me and called me out for my wrong. No one's ever done that. And that bothered you? It woke me up. He met her eyes. I've been sleepwalking through my life, Nora, building what I was supposed to build, becoming who I was supposed to become, and I was empty, completely empty. And you think I'm the answer to that? No. I think you're the question I didn't know I needed to ask. Nora felt something shift in her chest. Something dangerous. I should go, she said, standing abruptly. Minjun stood too. Nora, thank you for the help. I mean it. But I need to go. She left before he could respond, her heart pounding. Because she'd felt it too. The pull, the connection, the dangerous possibility of something real. And it terrified her. The next morning, Nora woke to a text from Minjun. All 4 clients received calls from Yura's office. I have the records. Sending you copies now. Another message followed with attachments. Then, meeting with your former clients today at 2 p.m. You're invited if you want to be there. Nora stared at the messages. He'd worked through the night. Had already arranged meetings. Was actually following through. She typed, I'll be there. His response was immediate. Good. I'll send a car. I can take the bus. I know you can, but the car is faster. Despite everything, Nora smiled. The meeting was in a conference room at a neutral location. 3 of her 4 former clients showed up. Minjun was already there when Nora arrived, looking every inch the powerful businessman in a sharp suit. But when he saw her, something in his expression softened. Thank you for coming, he said to the assembled clients. I'll be brief. You were all contacted by SEO Yura or her representatives with false information about Miss Williams's professionalism. Mr. Kang, with all due respect, one of them started, we have to protect our company reputation. I understand that, which is why I'm providing you with proof that the information you received was fabricated. Minjun slid folders across the table. These are records of Miss Williams's work for your companies, error rates, client satisfaction scores, timeline adherence. All exemplary. He paused, letting them review the documents. Miss SAO contacted you because Miss Williams was involved in an incident where she defended her mother from assault. That incident has been widely misrepresented. I have video evidence if you'd like to see it. One of the clients shifted uncomfortably. Mr. Kang, this seems very personal for you. It is. Miss Williams is someone I respect. And I don't appreciate seeing people I respect being systematically destroyed by lies. The weight of his words and his reputation hung in the room. We'd like to review these materials, another client said. If everything is as you say, it is. And I expect you'll make the right decision. Minjun stood. Miss Williams is one of the best translators in the city. Losing her would be your loss, not hers. He walked out and Nora followed. In the hallway, she grabbed his arm. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. They might not all come back. But you tried. You actually tried. Minjun looked at her hand on his arm, then at her face. I told you I would. I know. I wasn't sure I believed you. Do you now? Nora slowly released his arm. Maybe. A little. His smile was small but genuine. I'll take it. Her phone buzzed. A message from one of the clients. Miss Williams, after reviewing the materials, we'd like to reinstate your contract. Our apologies for the misunderstanding. Then another. Within 10 minutes, all 3 had sent similar messages. Nora stared at her phone, something tight in her chest loosening. They came back, she said quietly. Told you. She looked up at him. How did you do this so fast? I'm good at what I do. And when I care about something, I don't hesitate. The words carried weight, meaning beyond the surface. Nora's breath caught. I should probably go celebrate with my mom, she said, needing space from whatever this was becoming. Of course, I'll have the driver. I'll take the bus. Nora. Minjun. She met his eyes. Thank you, really, but I need some air. He nodded slowly, understanding. Okay. She turned to leave, then paused. Would you want to get coffee sometime? Just coffee. No business. No crisis. Just coffee. Minjun's expression transformed. Yes. Tomorrow? Tomorrow. Nora smiled, a real smile, and left. Minjun stood in the hallway watching her go, feeling something he hadn't felt in years. Hope. 3 weeks later, coffee became a regular thing. Not every day, not even every few days. But regular enough that Nora stopped pretending it didn't matter. They talked about everything. Books, politics, her work, his growing disillusionment with his business empire, her dreams of maybe teaching someday, his realization that he'd built a life he didn't actually want. Slowly, so slowly neither of them noticed it happening, walls came down. Nora told him about growing up with a single mother, about the kids at school who'd made fun of her worn shoes, about the fierce pride her mother had instilled in her. Minjun told her about expectations, about a father who died leaving him an empire he'd never asked for, about the loneliness of being surrounded by people who wanted things from him. And somewhere in those conversations, something shifted. Chemistry built. Not the explosive kind, the quiet kind, the dangerous kind. The kind that snuck up on you until suddenly you were thinking about someone at random moments, until you were smiling at texts, until you were lying in bed wondering what they were doing. Nora fought it. Minjun didn't. You're different, he said one afternoon as they walked through a park. Different how? You make me want to be honest, even when it's uncomfortable. That's just called being a decent human. In my world, it's revolutionary. Nora laughed. Your world needs better standards. It does. He stopped walking, turning, to face her. Nora, His phone rang. He glanced at it, his expression hardening. I should take this. He stepped away, and Nora watched the tension return to his shoulders as he talked. When he came back, something had changed. I have to deal with something, he said. Whoa, business crisis. Of course. I'm sorry, It's fine, go. But it wasn't fine. Because Nora had felt it in that moment, the pull back to his world. The reminder that no matter how many coffee dates they had, he was still Kang Minjun. Still had responsibilities and pressures she couldn't understand. Still lived in a world she didn't belong to. She went home and tried not to think about it. She failed. What Nora didn't know was that the call had been from Yura. We need to talk, Yura had said, about your little project. I don't have anything to say to you. Then just listen. I know you're seeing her, the poor girl. And I know you think this is real, but it's not. She's using you. Goodbye, Yura. I have proof. Minjun had stopped. Proof of what? That she's been researching you, looking into your assets, your properties. She's been contacting financial advisors asking about prenuptial agreements. You're lying. Am I? Why don't you ask her yourself? Yura's voice was sweet poison. Ask her about the meeting she had with Attorney Kim last week, about the questions she asked regarding marriage to wealthy individuals. Minjun had ended the call, but the seed was planted. And despite himself, he wondered. 2 days later, Nora noticed Minjun was different, more distant, more guarded. Is everything okay? She asked. Fine. But it wasn't fine. She could feel him pulling away. If something's wrong, you can tell me. Minjun looked at her for a long moment. Did you meet with Attorney Kim last week? Nora blinked. What? How do you... Just answer the question. Yes. I met with an attorney. Why? What did you discuss? Nora's eyes narrowed. Why are you asking me this? Because someone told me you were asking about prenuptial agreements, about protecting assets in marriages to wealthy individuals. The accusation hung in the air. Nora went very still. And you believe them? I'm asking you. No, you're accusing me. She stood up. You think I'm using you? That I'm what? Planning to trap you into marriage and steal your money? I didn't say that. You didn't have to. Nora's voice shook with fury. I met with an attorney because one of my translation clients is writing a novel about a gold digger and wanted accurate legal terminology. I was doing research for work. Minjun's face changed. Nora, who told you? Let me guess. Yura. His silence was answer enough. And you believed her, after everything, after weeks of this. Nora grabbed her bag. You know what? This was a mistake. I knew it from the beginning. Nora, wait. No, you wait. She turned back to him, tears in her eyes. I let you in. I started trusting you. Started thinking maybe you were different, but you're not. You're just like everyone else in your world. You see someone like me and assume the worst. That's not fair. Fair? You accused me of being a gold digger based on a lie from a woman who's been trying to destroy me for weeks. How is that fair? Minjun stood, trying to reach for her. I'm sorry. I should have trusted you. You should have believed me over her. But you didn't. And that tells me everything I need to know. She walked out. This time he didn't follow. He just stood there in the coffee shop they'd made their own, realizing he'd just destroyed the best thing in his life because he'd let doubt win, because for all his talk of change, he'd fallen back into old patterns. Calculate, protect, suspect, and now he'd lost her. 1 week later, the gala. Minjun's company was hosting its annual charity gala, mandatory, attendance for senior staff, which meant Mrs. Stella had to be there. And Nora came with her, not because she wanted to, but because her mother was nervous about facing that world again. The ballroom was stunning. Crystal chandeliers, champagne fountains, people who looked like they'd stepped off magazine covers. Nora felt every inch of how much she didn't belong. Maybe we should leave, she whispered to her mother. We just got here, sweetheart. Then Nora saw him. Minjun across the room, surrounded by executives. Their eyes met. Something passed between them, regret, longing, unfinished business. Then someone blocked her view. Yura. Well, well, look who decided to attend. Her smile was sharp as broken glass. I'm surprised you had the nerve to show your face after everything. Nora's mother tensed. Nora stepped slightly in front of her. We're just here for the event. We don't want any trouble. Of course you don't. You never do. You just create it wherever you go. People were starting to notice, starting to watch. Excuse us, Nora said, trying to move past. Yura blocked her path. I have something everyone should see since we're all here together. She pulled out her phone and gestured to someone near the stage. The large screen at the front of the ballroom flickered to life. An image appeared. Nora and Minjun standing very close, her hand on his chest, their faces inches apart. It looked intimate, calculated, deliberately seductive. Gasps rippled through the crowd. This, Yura announced, her voice carrying across the ballroom, is what gold digging looks like when it wears a modest dress. The room erupted in whispers. Nora felt every eye turn to her, felt the weight of their judgment crushing down. Her mother grabbed her hand. Nora, that wasn't. I know, Mom. Nora's voice was barely a whisper, because she knew exactly what was happening. The image was manipulated, taken out of context, designed, to make her look like exactly what Yura had always claimed she was, a gold digger. And everyone believed it. She saw it in their faces, the disdain, the knowing looks, the confirmation of every stereotype. I can't. Nora couldn't breathe. I have to go. She turned and ran, through the crowd, past the staring faces, out into the hallway. Behind her, Minjun was already moving. Stop, he commanded, his voice cutting through the chaos. The room went silent. He walked to the stage and took the microphone. That image is fake. Murmurs spread. It's been digitally altered, cropped and manipulated to create a false narrative. He pulled out his phone. I have the original right here. Someone put it on the screen. The original image appeared. Nora and Minjun standing several feet apart, having a normal conversation. No touching, no intimacy, just two people talking. The room erupted in shocked whispers. Minjun looked directly at Yura. You've been systematically trying to destroy Nora Williams because you see her as a threat. You've contacted her clients with lies. You've spread rumors. And now you've doctored a photo to publicly humiliate her. Yura's face went white. I'm done, Minjun said quietly. I'm done with all of it. The politics, the manipulation, the games. He looked out at the crowd. Nora Williams is one of the most honest, brave, kind people I've ever met. She defended her mother when no one else would. She called me out when I failed to be better. She's never asked me for anything except to be left alone. And you, he gestured to the room, you judged her because she doesn't wear the right clothes or have the right connections. He set down the microphone and walked off the stage. The crowd parted silently. He found Nora outside, sitting on the steps, her shoulders shaking. Nora! She looked up, tears streaming down her face. You didn't have to do that. Yes, I did. He sat beside her, not touching, just present. I'm sorry, he said quietly, for doubting you, for believing yours lie, for not trusting you when you'd given me every reason to. Why should I believe anything you say now? Because I'm not asking you to believe me. I'm asking you to let me prove it, every day. For as long as it takes. Nora wiped her eyes. Your world is never going to accept me. Then I'll build a new world, one where you fit perfectly. That's not realistic. Maybe not. But it's what I want. You're what I want. Nora looked at him, seeing the truth in his eyes, the vulnerability he was offering. I'm scared, she whispered. I know this isn't easy, but I won't walk away from you because of fear, Minju assured her. What if we try, and I still don't belong? Then I'll make space for you where you do. Inside, Yura watched through the window, her victory turning to ash. Because she tried to destroy them and instead had driven them together, had given Minjun the final push he needed to choose, and he'd chosen Nora. 3 months later, Minjun restructured his business, focusing on ethical practices and fair wages. Some partners left, better ones came. Nora kept her independence, her work, her life, but she let him in. Slowly, carefully. They faced whispers, stares, occasional cruelty from people who thought they knew better, but they faced it together. And on a quiet Sunday morning, in Mrs. Stella's small apartment, they sat around the table sharing breakfast. Minjun laughed at something Nora said. Mrs. Stella smiled, watching them. And Nora realized something. This was what love looked like. Not perfect, not easy, but worth everything. Because sometimes the most powerful thing a person can do is choose someone who makes them want to be better. And sometimes the bravest thing is letting someone choose you. It all started because a powerful man saw an elderly woman on her knees and decided that some things were worth defending. Some people were worth choosing. And some lives were worth changing. That's the story for today. Thanks for staying with me till the end. If you enjoyed the story, like the video and subscribe for the next story. I share stories like this every week, stories about love that crosses boundaries, dignity in unexpected places, and people choosing each other despite the odds. Drop a comment telling me which moment you enjoyed the most and the ones that hit you the hardest. I'll see you in the next one.